You got what I need. But you say he's just a friend. You say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you got what I need. Let's go, gentlemen.
We are live.
Where's Doc at?
I know, because Doc ain't here. I think we're live. That's what it says. We're live. Hopefully we're live. I think we are.
Say he's just. That's my jam right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up?
We ready? We ready?
Born ready, baby.
Man, welcome back. Hopefully, y'all have had a fantastic week. I know it's near and dear to me and Eric's heart on tonight's topic. Matt, too. Well, shoot, all of us. Devo, all of us. But because we do it on the daily, Eric and I are going to drop some wisdom, drop some dimes, maybe some quarters on y'all. But we need you to save them. We're going to talk about financial literacy and how to pass on what we do or we don't do or didn't do as dads to our kids. So anybody want to give me a little excerpt real quick before I started off with a little something? I know Eric got something to say. Come on, Eric.
I'm just glad to be here.
Eric, glad to be here.
I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah. I'll say something real quick.
Matt?
All right, everybody. Let me tell you, we're professional dads, but we have this link that we're supposed to be on every Thursday night. And I'm telling you what, every Thursday night, we all struggle to find the right link.
It's a disaster. It honestly is.
But just like financial literacy is not about the journey or the process in that exact moment. It's about the outcome. As long as we all make it to where we're supposed to get to, we good.
So y'all better be here every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time because we're going to be here. You may not see what's behind the scenes, but we're going to be here. Just like you ain't going to see behind the scenes of what it took to get to the savings account, to the 401k, to the Roth, to the investments, all that stuff. But it's going to be there. You can rest assured it's going to be there. So.
That's right. And by the way, one more thing. Let's send a shout out to Doc. We're missing him tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He
Shout out.
Tied up, so. All right.
Shout out to Big Doc. All right, y'all. We talking financial literacy. Listen, we going from the hip tonight. I'm going to start off with a story. I'm ashamed to tell it. But I talked to Matt. Matt's like, no, you got to share it. And every time I share it, people are like, you did what? So here's my financial story. So we all know that money is the root. The love of money is the root of all evil. Not money. You can be rich and still be a Christian. You can have money and have nice things. But when you start loving money, that's when you get yourself into trouble. So I will start off this with, man, can't believe I'm going to do this live, but we're going to do it. Back in the day, when I did mortgages from 2004 to 2009 through the recession. So 04, 05, 06, 07. I mean, I might as well have been printing money. Scrooge McDuck, I was diving in it, swimming in it, doing all the things. I was 23 years old, making way too much money than what I should have done. So what did I do at 23 years old? I spent it. So I spent all of that stuff. I made it rain every single month. And then when I say make it rain every single month, I would go like, hey, I was married to my kid's mom at the time. Like, what do you want to do? Well, let's go buy a new wardrobe. Like a whole wardrobe. That's the type of stupid money I was making it rain. Like, we had one child at the time, and what does she say? She's like, hey, I want an SUV. I'm like, okay, cool. We get a Honda Pilot. We'll get no. We want to get a Nissan Armada.
Not my girl.
Right. Nissan Armada that seats 7. Why? Because we got one child. So what did I do with a big red bow on it? I went and bought that sucker like for Christmas. So I say that. That's stupid. If y'all listening, don't do that. That's stupid. But I say that to say I worked hard then. I also spent hard then, and I didn't save. We all thought, at least my brain, thought it was just going to continue to go. Hey, these big checks are going to come through. It's going to be easy. The market's going to be fine. I didn't save anything. Nothing. I wish I had saved a little bit. But here's my point to all of that. the love of money during that time was not that I wanted to have the nicest things. It's not that I wanted a new wardrobe every quarter. It's not any of those things. This is what gripped me. And I'm ashamed to say, but I'm glad it had changed me to where I am now. The stress and the love of money and the grip that it held on my life when my checking account dipped below $20,000 is a mental pain and a mental stress that I cannot fully explain to you. If it would dip to like 19.7, knowing that on Friday in 3 days I was going to get another fat check, my stress, I wouldn't sleep, I wouldn't eat. It literally gripped me so bad if my account got below 20 grand. Now, you can judge me if you want to. I'm judging myself at this point. I don't really care. But what I've tried to, at least me, and I know you guys are doing it and have done it because we have the kids that are different ages, try to teach my son and teach my daughter. Like, I was gripped to that. I would go buy what I wanted, do what I wanted, all those things. But when it dipped, that was a mental barrier for me that I had to keep it above there. Savings account, I didn't care that it said $5 because that's the minimum you had to have in there. But that checking account dipped below 20. It ruined my day. It ruined my weekend. It literally ruined me where I would go into sweats because my account was below 20 grand. I think that's what I read in the Bible when I read all these devotions and all those things. I had a love of money. And when you lose all of that, we had the recession, my company shut down, all of us lost jobs, got our severance, and then we had to go start over again. Really taught me, 1, you need to save. 2, let's go ahead and live between our means. 3, all right, I had 146 dress shirts, y'all, at one particular time. Do you know how many white dress shirts I had? Like plain white dress shirts.
A third of them.
Zero.
Oh.
I didn't even have a white one. I had that's the stupid stuff that I did with my money. So please, somebody help me and tell me that y'all spent some money on stupid stuff. I learned from that. We can go through that, but that's how I wanted to start this off so y'all can be judgy and go, what the heck is Josh talking about? Yeah. That's facts right there.
I don't know nothing about that. Oh,
Eric's cringing right now. Eric's
I'm like, man, I don't know anything about that. Guys, it's good to see y'all. I think my first, first conversation I can remember, probably somewhere around 8 or 9. I remember my mother telling me, because my sister and I would get little chores and get a little bit of money for that, pennies and stuff. And so mom would say, if you kick $4 or $5 back and save it, you'll be a millionaire one day. Well, first of all, I didn't know what a millionaire was.
Right.
And I just like, okay, I didn't know what that meant. But it's funny now sitting back and saying some of the same things to the boys. Hey guys, rather than, hey, if you put this back, you'll be this, we just do it for them on autopilot. It's like, You don't need to know about it. You don't need to know the why. Just gonna do it. And it's like learning the lesson and then implementing it now on their behalf. But we still, when it comes to little odd jobs that they do, we're teaching them about tithing. So they're taking that off the top. Things like that. Birthday comes up, they take some of that money and tithe on it. So those things they're actively participating in. But man, I love my mom. Man, she probably knew more about finances than we would have known what was in the account. But she's always like, man, save some. Just put some back. And I would never do it. So I know we'll get deeper into that, and I'll tell you like a transition story when I really recognized the need to get out of debt. But I just wish I would have picked up on that, earlier as a child, to develop those habits, to be more conscious of saving, so that when the rainy day comes and maybe I'm 18, 19, 20, oh, that's what she was trying to teach me.
Yeah. Did everybody, before Devo or Matt goes, did y'all growing up, not that our parents did or didn't teach about money, did we grow up knowing, hey, we had money or we didn't have money, or was it just not even Or was it not even a thing? Like, hey, we got money. I get what I need. I get what I want. We're good. Or was it like, oh, crap, we don't have any money? Or was it just like, like I'm just living life. It was not even a thought.
We never talked about it at all.
Okay.
I think growing up where I grew up in Shallow Acres, I mean, everybody knew each other, 10, 12 houses down the street. People come over and play. It's like the summers were long, your days were long, nights were long. Before you know it, you're back in school. There was no really like when we came to Greensboro, to put this in context, I know where Guilford College is now, clearly, because I worked there. But when I grew up, I had no idea where that when 2016 came and I transitioned to Guilford. It was the first time I'd ever been on the campus.
Yeah,
I had never been on that side of town growing up, and so Greensboro as a 9-10-year-old was like New York City.
Yeah.
And where we grew up. So when you come to Winston or Greensboro, your eyes are pressed up against the window like, wow, this is big. Because you knew when you left wherever we were going, you were going back to the country. We're going back to the country. And it might be weeks before you go back in there. So we had no concept of, are we poor? Are we middle class? Are we this? Are we that? We were just surrounded by relatives, love, country living, chiggers, eating honeysuckle. That's what we did.
Right.
So we didn't know, had no conscience.
I got you.
Yeah, for me, it was, we spent our time on the athletic field. That's where we were 24/7, 365. Yep. We were playing always on the field or on our bikes riding, like you said. And, I mean, my parents worked hard. I didn't maybe not appreciate it at the time, but, I like to say that I grind, because I do. I enjoy the grind, to be honest with you. But my dad and mom and dad both, they did it. I mean, they worked during the day. They had a jewelry, worked in jewelry, like engraving jewelry and doing different stuff at night. So it wasn't like they were just going to their day job, which they had good day jobs, but they would come home and work at night too. And so there were times when, just like everything, times we were up, times we were down. My dad was very entrepreneurial minded, and I think I get a lot of that from him as well. But I want to say, it wasn't like I was taught financial literacy or a bunch about money. We did what we needed to do to get by. We lived all right, even if in the times that it wasn't all right. I didn't know. They didn't tell me. We were always going to have good food on the table, regardless. They were going to make that happen. So some of it was, I was blind to it a little bit, I think, from what I know now from conversations with my parents and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say we lived a middle-class life, but it wasn't always like it wasn't a high middle-class life. It was, we were doing what we needed to do to get by. But I also appreciate that, the 80s were different, than they are now. True. When we all grew up, we lived on our bikes. We lived in the woods, or we lived riding, doing everything that we did. It was good living. We weren't handed out when you talk about like what we do for our kids. And we've talked about this in multiple shows. Like we protect our kids, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We make sure they don't hurt for nothing, and we'll work hard to make sure they don't hurt for nothing. But hey, that's what my parents were doing too, but we were just also working to get by on the day.
True.
It's good. It was good living, but fun.
Devo.
Yeah. So I think my situation probably was similar. I'm not necessarily, I know my parents had never teach me what I would consider financial literacy as in A to Z. But I did see my dad sitting down with the checkbook and writing the checks and paying the bills and different things like that. Mm-hmm. So we were taken care of. I'd never forget a couple of times my cousins would come over and stay with us. They would spend the night and then they would come back again and spend the night again and spend the weekend. And I was like, well, if they spend the weekend, why they taking baths and all that stuff too, right? And so it finally clicked.
There's no water.
Yeah. It finally clicked that, they were having some struggles here and there and trying to make ends meet. And so I was like, and you talk about the 80s, like my dad was a welder. So he's always worked hard his whole entire life. And truth be told, that's where I get my work ethic from,
Yeah.
or at least that's where I get my motivation from anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'd never forget back during the early 80s when they cut the hours and we were in a recession and they cut the hours, he went to the trailer park right down the street, like they sold mobile homes, and he was washing them. And I was like, look at this guy, he out here just working real hard. And he was like, you think I'm doing this because I want to do this? He's like, no, I'm trying to make a living for you and your mama. And I will never forget that moment. It's like been forever etched in my mind. Like, oh, so this is what it means to hustle. This is what it means to make sure you provide for your family, to make sure you keep those ends meeting. And I used to see him come home and he would have holes burnt all in his pants and his jeans and stuff like that. And so, although he's the hardest working dude I knew, I always promised myself, if I ever get a job, it's going to be in an office with a controlled thermostat where I can move it just the heat and the AC, and I can come in the elements when it's raining outside and make sure we keep things pushing. But he always told me, he told me two things, save and give some money to your mama. Save, give some money to your mama. And I'm like, all right. So I saved. Like I saved. Matter of fact, my same cousins who used to come over and spend the night, he used to have this clubhouse in the back. And so I would ride up to the Circle K on my bike, buy a pack of gum for 25 cents, and then sell each piece for a dime.
That's what
I like.
I've always hustled my whole life. And one thing I've always promised is that I will never be broke. Like, I can't get cheese on my burger, but I can order a burger, right? And so when I go to the store and I get a cup of water, it's because it's a choice. And so I see a lot of my friends who will just go out and, buy what they want to buy. Have 147 dress shirts, pink, lavender, all the Crayola colors, and look like you know what? I listen to Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey said, you need a white shirt, you need a black shirt, and you need a brown shirt. And you can make all that other stuff work, right?
Yep.
So I've always tried to figure out how to hustle. And so and I think that's why I love school so much. Is like, I'm gonna figure out a way to make this whole life thing work. And growing up, I thought it was education, which it is, but not necessarily degrees, but they do open doors. And so I've tried to teach my kids along the way. Okay, save some money, give some money to your daddy. Save some money, give some money. And I got two in college, and I will actually say this year, neither one of them have asked their mom or myself for a dime, because I've always told them, look, God has given you something he didn't give me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's giving you this skill set that you need to make sure you leverage to make it work for you. And so what you need to do is prepare yourself. And I've always told them, like, your senior year, scholarships. And both of them have just been killing the game. And we're talking about financial literacy, and 2 years ago, I walked away from a 6-figure job in order to go pursue hobbies and dreams, and crap like that, right? And so we were going somewhere. We were going out of town. All of us was riding together, and so we were talking about our W-2s, and like, my kids making more money than I am now. I'm like, you in college and you making more money than I am?
Yeah,
like something wrong with that picture.
That's all right. You got it coming, dog.
Correct,
you got it coming.
Correct. So that just tells me that we're focused, we're grinding the way we know how. Now we're just trying to get over into investments, but that will come too.
Do you guys? And I know what you're going to say, but
hey, Josh, hold on just a second. I hate to be the one that dropped the bomb on here. Out of all Devo said, all I was fixated on was, and maybe it was just me, I think I heard him say, I went to the store and got all the bubble gum, 25-cent bubble gum, and sold it for a dime. I was like, wait a minute, that math ain't mathing. I thought you were going to buy it for a dime and sell it for 25 cents. That's how you make money. You lost money.
No.
No.
It's a
He
pack.
bought.
It's a
Bought
pack.
about the pack.
Oh, it's a pack. I'm with you now.
Okay.
So we double that.
I thought you were getting singles and
Now,
losing
E,
money.
as long as you know me, baby, I ain't ever gave away the cow. All right, baby, the cow always gonna pour out some milk. I
Listen,
promise.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Why are you giving it down? I'm with you now.
Nah, the math always math. If I
Yeah,
ain't never had a course in school, it's always been math.
I'm
Okay.
with you.
I got some story. Like my dad used to tell me. So my uncle's a businessman in Ohio. I have two uncles. That one's a day trader. He owned a fraternity sportswear company. My other uncle was a farmer, worked for John Deere, owned some John Deere stores. He used to sell my dad tube socks. So my dad was younger, so my uncle had a job and would get the new socks. Well, my dad played sports too, but he wasn't old enough to have a job. He would charge my dad for socks. Then he also would have money, so he would buy soda. We call it pop in Ohio. He would buy a 2-liter pop and sell it to my dad by the cup.
I like the style right here. We grinding.
I heard those stories growing up. So my first, and this will give you the grind for myself, is I would sell. So there, we can debate it all you want to if you're listening. I know the three of you all are with me. There's only one GOAT, and he ain't playing basketball no more. So
Exactly.
I used to have my mom and dad buy me a 3x5 index cards, like a pack of them. You get like 50 or 100 a pack. Well, I would draw the Jumpman on the 3x5 card, and I would go to school and I'm like, hey, you want to buy one of these? They're like, oh yeah, can I get a red one? Yep. I would go home. I would color a red one. The next day I would go to school. I'll sell it to you for a quarter, 50 cents, whatever it is. You want American flag? Yeah, I could do that because you know why? Because that's what we used to have the dab of the whiteout, like that little foam thing, and you dab. They didn't have the line now. I got my first. I was in 3rd grade. Little boy's like 5 doors down. We lived in Ohio, and I went down, knocked on the door. His mom answered the phone. Hey, Josh, how are you? I said, I wish I remembered his mama's name because she'd be I'd have a tattoo across my chest if I knew that mama's name. Her name or his name. I said, hey, he wanted this for me. He owes me 75 cents or 50 cents, what it is. And she said, Josh, he's not coming to the door and he's not coming to pay you for that crap. Slammed the door in my face. 3rd grade. My first no. I'm like, oh, that. And I don't really say a whole lot of curse words now, but I feel like then I probably said something like deep inside. I marched my butt back home and I was like, you know what? I know how this feels. I know it's going to happen, but I just got to keep obviously going. But and I think that's the big thing where I was going to go when Eric said that is, do you think it's the men's responsibility because the 4 of us are grinders, right? Like we grind and we go, it doesn't matter if we got $5 or $500,000, we still going to grind the same. Do you think it's in our DNA? Do you think it's something we learned? Do you think it's something the good Lord gave us? And second part, do you think it's our responsibility to do that, to always be on the grind? Because I feel like most men that I know are always on the grind. We don't ever settle. We just kind of like, like I'm like, I got a full-time job making, and this isn't, for instance, this isn't me. Full-time job, 6 figures, investments paying me. And I'm like, I'm about to go DoorDash because I got an easy night tonight. I got nothing going on, but I want to continue to grind. Do you think that's something that we have inside of us?
Not all.
Not all?
I think if we go back, I recall maybe 2 sessions ago, we were talking about ascending and climbing. I think it comes to a point you do that because that's almost like a commandment that man, head of the household, some of those things that come just for our natural and spiritual bent. But I think at some point you got to put it in perspective, which is really why we created this Professional Dad podcast, because at some point you begin to lose focus on what's important. If the grind is such that it's about the money and the money at all costs, then cost could be your sacrifice, your family, innate, whatever, you can get it out of balance and get out of whack. And so I think that when you begin to look at like what's the purpose, provide for your children, a good life for your kids. Maybe it's a zip code situation or whatever. And you do those things it's just a matter of keeping it in perspective. I think that it's funny. It feels like every show we've had connects the dots to this conversation, because then you're doing all that climbing, but you need to have that conversation with your spouse or significant other, so that there's still that time where you've got that FaceTime for her, and you got FaceTime for your kids. Because again, I said it before in the previous situation I was in, I lived in a suitcase. I was going 3 or 4, days out the week, come home and not want to see anybody, just want to sleep. And, I'm glad today that door closed. It was there for it to be closed. I wouldn't close it. And I feel like that door, thankfully, prayerfully, was closed because I needed to slow down.
Yeah. I think, first, do all men grind? And now, because I see a lot of people that don't grind, Yeah. And I scratch my head sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? You're lazy. That's the way I feel sometimes. I'm like, you're lazy. But I think priorities change in your family. I mean, if I look at how and this is our responsibility when we're talking about teaching our kids and all that, I look at the things that we've done from the time we got married, from the time that they were babies to the time that they were young. I've told my kids multiple times, and I don't say this to be hard. I said it to be prepared for them. The thing that me and my wife are not prepared for was sports and dance, the expense. Because you get in the catch-22 of you want your child to, and they're operating. We'll use Braden we'll use Braden, Megan, all 3 of them. They were operating at a high level. So do you want to pull them back and say, no, we're going to play on this, we're going to play on this rec team when they're playing at this high level? I mean, Eric knows, he saw Braden play college soccer and all that. And you want them to operate at that high level because they're working hard, and you always want them to be at that top level. Well, that comes at a cost nowadays in America. It comes at a huge cost. And we were not prepared for that financial cost. Dance alone, my God, I thought sports were expensive. Dance was out of control. I remember when Megan came and sat down with me when she was going into her senior year and junior, senior year, applying for colleges. And she sat down with me, and I think about this. She sat down with me knowing how much time and effort and money that we had spent on dance alone. And she said, Dad, can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And she said, Dad, I don't want to go to college to be a dancer. And I was like, she goes, and I don't want you to be mad because y'all put so much time, effort, and money into my dance. So, I mean, the answer to that is, well, Megan, I never wanted you to go to college and be a dancer. She goes, Dad, I want to go to school and be a doctor. Well, let's finish the story. This week on Tuesday, she takes her step one test, her first big test at Georgetown Medical School as a second-year medical student. That's what her goal was. But that time and effort and money and all the things that we put into that dance, right, helps her prepare for where she's at today. And so I would always tell my kids that this is secondary. But I also tell my kids, be prepared for that, because those were expenses we did not know were coming. We had no clue that it would be that way. So the point is like, some people don't. But I think as we go through these different stages in life, it's our responsibility. Yeah, we want our kids, like right now, I told you, my wife and me, it's transitioned to, can we take a trip? Eric, can we take a trip with our kids, right? We're getting ready to go to Italy, with Braden and his girlfriend, Riley, and Laney's already over there studying and all that. So we're going to take these trips, but I'll grind. Tisha will grind. Tisha is putting her head down, working overtime and doing all kinds of that stuff at the hospital. I'm so proud of how hard she's working to make these things happen, And so we do these things, and it's so expensive. Life is, well, what do you want out of life, right? I still think making memories is one of the best things that you can have. Making memories is expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Disney World is expensive. I don't know, but
Eric getting ready to tell us how much their memories were.
No, hey,
it's worth it. It's worth it.
I thank God for the people that went before me, because I made some phone calls and said, hey, we think about taking the kids here. Hey, man, you like to fly Delta? You're going to fly Frontier. I've never flown Frontier before. Well, you need to look it up and fly Frontier. Well, I got a spot at the Animal Kingdom. Cut that out. Go ahead and let that reservation go. You're going to stay at the DoubleTree.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to spend more time outside the hotel. Man, I'm telling you, I got a friend here in Greensboro, works in Merrill, and High Point, works in Merrill. Man, that 2-hour phone call we had one afternoon saved me probably $11,000.
Yeah.
And it was priceless. And the fact that he was willing to spend the time to just chop it up with me, because he goes to Disney quite frequently. And I needed that, because I was going in the blind, let the internet tell it. And
Yeah.
so like, yeah, let's do it. Matt and Devo released me from my anxiety.
You had conversation with these two, and you're like, I'm fine. I'm doing
I'm like, we got the money. No. So Frontier is my friend.
Listen, my son, at least, my son asks for coupons wherever we go.
See, I like
that.
Even I don't even have to. We don't have to. I don't have to sit down and say, "Hey, bud, this is this, and this." That's the other thing. He sees how I operate. Look, I've had it. I've not had it, and somewhere in between, but I don't change how I operate. Listen, this will tell you, I sent him a picture of my fridge the other day, right? And my son sent back, yes, with like all these exclamation points. And I'm like, I was on FaceTime with my mom. I turned the phone around. She's like, look at you, big money. You don't put food in there. I'm like, that's what Hudson was saying. Like, because the way I have my son, Monday, Tuesday, every other weekend, I don't need the same food that he needs when he's here. So I'm like, can I figure out a dinner for Monday night, Tuesday night? Because I don't need it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I save that money for 5 days. I'm telling you, that's how I operate. But funny you say that about like the phone. You can live, like Matt said, make memories, do all those things. You can do those things. We've all said it. We've all done it. Balling on a budget. I will be glad to go get my filet mignon on a Tuesday from Food Line with the yellow manager sticker on it. Come home and grill that sucker on my grill and put it on my paper plates and eat that sucker. Don't think I won't. It's still filet mignon if it goes bad tomorrow. And I still cut it. It still tastes the same off the paper plate.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
I now let somebody go. If y'all saw the video I put up the other day, me sitting at the airport, $200 shoes, $200 AirPods, going back to 8D on Spirit, that was real life. I flew Spirit for the first time last week. I'm like, you talking about Frontier? It's the same thing. I'm like, man, these are big seats. No, those weren't mine. I had to keep going. My seat was like this all the way to Florida. But here's what I did. I got invited to Florida to go for a nice free trip with my friends. And they're like, you ain't coming because of that airplane ticket. I'm like, you're right. I'm not. I'm going to stay here. They're like, Josh, just look for a ticket. Tell me why I drove to Richmond and flew round trip for $76. Yes, I did. Spirit like this for 2.5 hours. Yes, how you doing? All right. No, I'm good on something to drink because I can't move my hands to drink it. No, I didn't do any of that. Somebody else go ahead. We can ball on a budget. I'm telling you.
Hey, ain't nothing
and
wrong.
Teach our kids at the same time.
Yeah.
My son knows we ain't sitting at the front of the plane.
Hey, Devo, tell your stories about traveling and staying at the parks. We're like, why don't you get a hotel? No, I'm staying at the cabins.
Yeah. Hey, if I'm lying, I'm flying. Eric got married, right? And so I was like, he was staying at what's the hotel?
We was up at the Broyhill.
The Broyhill, which is Appalachian's Chancellor's Hotel or whatever, hotty toddy. You know what I'm saying? He was like, all right, yeah, y'all can roll up here. I think it's $175 a night. And I was like, for you, it ain't for me. So I was like, let me look up the KOA. And so we was gonna roll up there. And we got this other friend named Wayne. Wayne was like, man, you better not do Heather like that, put her in no KOA. I was like, Heather, I've been married for 10 years at the time. She know what's up.
We've been going to the KOA.
We've been going to the KOA. So Wayne felt bad and hooked us up for the night. But truth be told, we were KOA bound. That's for sure. And my family just knows. Like you if you want this, then that means we can't have that. And
Correct.
so it's all about choices. Like
Yep.
where do you want to fit in? And my wife now, she's on this memory kick. Like it's all about memories. It's all about memories.
It is.
You
That's
know,
where this is at. Too.
yeah, it's not for me, it's never been about the name brands and all that type of stuff. Cause I will go and get me a pair of Walmart pants and cut off that back tag and like they Tommy Hilfiger. Like it don't even matter.
Walmart just hit the market with some Avia shoes that gone crazy.
Hey, and they comfortable too. I went and tried on 2 pair of them last week, and Heather was like, "You got a job now. People need to know you got some money." And I'm like,
I heard a quote the other day, and I think it was Eminem that said it. He said, if you dress, nice, people would think you're flaunting it. If you dress down, they think you're poor. If you speak your mind, they think you're like, he went on this whole thing, and I'm like, yeah. You can't judge that book by its cover. And the memories are what it's all.
Hey, let me bring something up. Let me throw this
KOA ain't happening before you go, Matt. KOA Josh doesn't camp.
"Hey,
You glam.
just expand your
I'll
mind, my
glam.
brother.
I've
Expand your
camped
mind."
one time in my entire life, and I had to sleep on the floor of the tent. No, sir. I don't care what it costs. I'm a hotel snob, but it could be a Motel 6. I'm not sleeping at a KOA. I'm not sleeping in a tent.
You wouldn't
Go
have
ahead,
made,
Matt.
you wouldn't have
Hey,
made it
this
in the
summer,
Marine Corps, dog.
we're gonna do a remote show from a campground this summer.
Guess who's
Go
going to
ahead
be
and mark
doing
it
it
down.
remote from this very table? This guy.
Gosh, I was in Afghanistan for months and didn't take a shower.
I know. See, that's why I'm military, because I'm
Hey,
I didn't even realize how dirty I was.
you did that by choice, not by force.
right, not by force.
Hey, Matt, tell them how many days you can wear them underwear in a row.
The socks will stand up in the corner.
Them things will flip inside out so many different ways.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
No.
Uh,
But I think it's about like it says, just living. Like you can live that and show our kids. It's almost like do as I watch as I do, not as I, what as I say. I think it's the other way. Like they can see that. They can see if you're spending beyond your means. They can see if you're trying to be somebody you're different. They can see that you're not grinding. They can see all that. I think that's a huge testament to us, I think, as dads, that they can see that. Like I took Hudson to it's like a consignment store over in Waynesboro. And I bought a bunch of shoes from this guy. He loves me every time I come in because I roll out of there like 3 or 4 pairs of shoes. But they're on sale. They're a couple pairs. Like I'll flip them. I'll do all that stuff. But Hudson found this pair of soccer cleats. And I wasn't prepared. I didn't say, we're not going to get something. We are going to get something. He found me these soccer cleats, brand new, no box, just had the tag on them, still the Adidas thing or whatever. And he's like, Dad, I just looked these up. They're $260 right now online. I'm like, what they gonna make you do? Like $260 for some cleats? And he's like, Dad, they're only $100 here. And I'm like, do you already have cleats? Mom already got me a pair of cleats. I'm like, why do we need another pair? He's like, I'll send those back, Dad. These are ones I wanted. $260, $100. I said, okay. I said, we'll get them. And I, like you said, memories. I'm like, okay, he's going to play JV soccer. You know how it feels when you get a new shirt or new shoes, whatever. I want him to feel like that. So we go up to the counter and the guy's like, hey, Josh, or Mr. Josh, whatever the guy says. And I said, man, you got a deal on these for me or what? Like being funny. He goes, for you? And I said, yeah. And Hudson looked at me like, Dad, we're at a consignment store. Like they're already lower. And the guy goes, I'll give them to you for 80. You would have thought Hudson's like, so he gives it to me for 80, $85 for something with tax. We walk out and he said, Dad, that's crazy. And I said, what? He goes, all you did was ask him and you were being funny and he gave you $20 off. He's like, thank you so much. And I'm like, He goes, it's just like a coupon, bud. He goes, all you got to do is ask. And it started going in his mind. Like I can have these $260 cleats for $80. And all my dad did was he was making memories with us, but all he did was ask. It blew his mind.
So
and blew mine too.
I throw this out there, right? Because I've been very, we're talking about our kids and all that. I come from the school of hard knocks, right? And so
You
School of
bet.
Hard, the School of Hard Knocks. I'm actually writing a book about it right now and stuff like that. But I medically retired from the Marine Corps, and then ended up walking away from the V-22, where I got offered. I was getting let go at the same time that I was getting promoted and a raise to a different job. At the same time, I was trying to go out on my own and start, the old Convene. It wasn't Convene. And I made a bad decision. I banked on these business partners that I had, and made a bad decision. Long story short, it put us in a bind for a little bit, right? So I think what I'm talking about is we've all gone through the highs and lows. Maybe it's a job or whatever, but here's my thing with it. And the reason why I bring it up, I didn't hide any of that from my kids. Like I told you earlier, I never knew if we were high, low, or whatever with my parents. But with my kids, I talked to them about it. I was like, I did this, a bad decision. I trusted these business partners. It didn't work out. And it's my job as a man to take care of my family. Right. And I actually screwed up, because it's a long story. It's a whole podcast by itself. But I've always told my kids, I'm like, make sure that you insulate yourself, make sure that you prepare yourself. And I think as part of their education that they got, part of their jobs that they have, as part of Megan going to be a doctor, as part of everything that Laney's doing, is I've always taught them to insulate themselves, to make sure that they're bulletproof, because guess what? We've all seen the economy since we've been alive go up and go down and go left and go right. And you never know where you're in that job one day and they walk in, and literally, I started this contract for the Marine Corps, $28.6 million. And he walked in the door, the guy who is now running it that I knew from the Marine Corps. And he said to me, hey, Matt, we're going to have to let you go. And the reason why we're going to let you go is because you're making the most money on the contract, and I can pay 2 people for what I'm paying you. And I was like, Frank, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair if it wasn't for me. He goes, well, I know that, Matt. And this is the biggest lesson that I ever got. You ready? He said, Matt, it's business. It's not personal. And I was like, oh, it's business. And I've taken that lesson that it's business and not personal sometimes, as long as I'm doing my job. So it's important that we teach our kids these things, because life ain't always easy. Yeah. Sometimes it's a grind. Yeah. But if you want to make something out of yourself, it's up to you to make it out of yourself. It ain't going to be handed to you. And I think that's the messaging here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the other caveat to that too is life's not always fair. Like, and you have to be proactive about educating yourself. And the latest kick that I'm getting on currently is like, which I didn't know anything about wealth. Like, I didn't know how to prepare wealth. I just thought you just go to work, you pay off your bills, you try to pay them off early, you plan for it. But it's so important, to your point, Matt, is to make sure you have multiple streams of income. In case one dries up, then you can fall back on something else in hard times. Like, don't ever be a one-trick pony. Like, have you 3 or 4 humps, you know what I'm saying, where you can draw water from. And so that's what I'm trying to teach my kids now. Like, and you're amassing all this different education. Make sure you leverage your education too. Like, you spent all this money or all this time, which equals money, invested in yourself to develop a certain skill set. Like, leverage it and make it work for you. Like, just don't sit back on it. Go out, write books, talk to people, get a podcast, and still maintain your 9 to 5. It's all.
Yeah, don't expect it to be handed to you, right? It's not going to be handed to you. That's it. That is not life. And I think I've really, again, me and Tisha have done a good job instilling it, in our kids. And so that would be my biggest advice that I would give people, is let them know that life's not easy and you got to work hard for what you want. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think it's.
Here's one more thing. I wanted to say this one more thing, because you said it real quick. This last thing. I grew up in the Marine Corps, where the Marine Corps, they're like, oh, you don't need to invest. It's like the biggest fallacy ever. And I know I'm going to say this, and Eric, you're going to have a heart attack and you might fall over in your seat and die when I say this, right? But they would say, why are you going to why do you need to get a 401k? You're going to have a military retirement. Yeah, I have a military retirement. I get paid every first of every month. It's wonderful, right? But what if, just what if I would have been invested in that 401k the whole time? But where the way I grew up in the military was like, why would you do that? Because you got to get a military retirement, you know? So that education, man, I just wished somebody would have been knocking on me going, hey, let me teach you this. Let me show you this. Let me teach you about that 401k. If you'll just take your flight pay and put it in this 401k. And there were some people that did, you know. I wasn't educated like that. I didn't get woken up to that. And it's like, dang.
I've been recently, not only through my church, but also specific podcasts that I've been listening to, audiobooks I've been listening to, really talking about walking in your purpose. Because you can get to a point where you get to 10, 15 years down the road and you feel like you was in this career or this job or whatever, and you're like, what was I doing? And feel like you're on a hamster wheel, just constantly wake up just to get in the cage and just start running in circles and stuff. And so very pivotal moment last year of really being in tune with doors closing, doors opening, and walking into purpose. And I fast forward to two situations that happened this week. One was Tuesday and one was this afternoon. I was talking to a lady on Tuesday, and she stopped me mid-sentence. I mean, it was very educational what Josh and I do. It can be therapeutic to a degree on both sides. I think that they get something, we get something out of it. But she stopped me. She said, I just want you to know I've been on calls all day talking about research funding and whether it's going to be coming in and things of that nature. It's just been so boring. It's just consumed my day. She said, but this call has been like financial therapy.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I feel like I should lay down on my couch and just listen to you talk to me, because this is like therapy. And I didn't know
you do got that voice.
I didn't know whether to be offended or like, ooh, to clutch my pearls or what. Like, what should be what are we doing? But just to know that when you're walking in your purpose, you're like, okay, you really giving people keys to make some informed decisions that could radically change their life. We fast forward to tonight, or this afternoon, I was talking to a lady, and when I first met her, there was so much anxiety and pressure in her face. It was just palpable. And then tonight, because I knew she had taken a trip, came back in. I said, look at you. Okay, I see that smile on your face. You know, some decisions that she had made leading up to this and decisions that she's going to be making. It's like liberating.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know what I would have done if we hadn't connected. You know, like, you know, some things that we're doing. And I don't know where it will go, but it's good to hear. It's to hear that. And so my youngest said earlier, was like, Dad, you're always on those Zooms. When you ever spend time with us? I said, well, this is how I'm making ends meet for the family. Well, then keep taking your Zooms. Keep taking your Zooms.
Popsicle.
But it's not. But beyond the independence and the income, it's the impact. And when you walk in your purpose, and it's not about me per se, it's about the impact. It's about people's lives that are changing, that you see on a daily basis, because you now position them in a way to take some steps that go beyond them. I told one of my fraternity brothers and good friends, I said to him, when you make a decision about certain policies where it comes to your children, what will happen is that when they see your picture on the wall, it's actually your great-grandchildren that will say, look what he did for me 20, 30 years ago. That's the legacy. And so when you can get people to really see that and understand, like, wow, yeah, Pawpaw is up on the wall. He made this decision, and maybe it was pressing at the time because it might have meant, you know, a certain couple of ducks got to come out of his pocket. But because the decision, he may not see the fruit of the decision, or she may not see the fruit of the decision, but the great-grands will see it. That's what purpose-driven is for. And that's where the financial literacy comes in, because it's a two-way street. There's liberation that comes in the work that we do, but there's also that empowerment that comes when you can deliver that and feel like you don't have to jump into a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And now it's like you can do some of them fun things like coach basketball, be on a podcast with my brothers, and come and go as I please, because you can create this crazy life that I never thought that was even possible. And it's sick sometimes thinking like, God, why did you put me in this role? This is crazy. You love me that much.
Yep.
Yeah, let me get this too. These are fast stories. These are impactful stories. So Braden, I remember Braden was young, and we lived in. We were down. I was a flight school instructor. We were going to this wonderful church, and it was a Sunday night. You go in, we read books to our kids every night. That was just the thing. Every night reading books to a kid. So I walk out. I turn out the light. I walk away, and I hear a couple minutes later, Braden says, "Dad, can you come back?" And I come back in the room. I'm like, "What's up, buddy?" And he goes, "Now think about this." He said, "Dad, I just prayed for God to come into my heart. What now?" Right? That's a big conversation, to say, what now? What do we do now? So I remember that one, but then let's fast forward it. Almost a conversation, not about God. That's number one. But then he when he started his job, he calls me and he said, "Dad, I'm looking at this 401k stuff. What now? What do I do?" And that's big too, because it's different times in life, different topics, but it was the opportunity to have a conversation with Braden and say, okay, what's their matching? What are they matching? What's the max that you can put in? Well, what does it mean to match, Dad? Well, okay, if they're going to match, whatever percentage, that's free money, right? Whatever you put in, you got to put that in, and they're going to match it on their side. But those are conversations, that I never had those conversations with my dad or with anybody, but important conversations,
Yeah. That just goes to show you that you've we either open about it, which you are, or you've lived it, or a combination of the two. Because I think that's when your kids, no matter what the age is, if they start asking you something that you're like, probably like you're like, you got a job, like you got to do that. Or like Eric or Debo's kids and my kids, depending on what age they are, you're like, how the heck why are you asking me that now? But the fact that if you pull it back, like you're asking me that because you trust what I'm going to say, you've seen me do it, or you value my opinion and my thoughts, and you want my help. That's the biggest compliment as a dad, I think, ever. And that's
School of Hard Knocks, Josh. How many cars did you own when you were young?
Oh, Eric's gonna fall out again. He done died 3 times.
My heart.
Yeah. So I will say, and Matt and I was having this conversation, but I'm a shoe guy now, which is a whole lot cheaper than what I used to be, which is a car guy. I think if I had to sit and count, by the time I got married and had my first child, I think I had 20 couple vehicles between 16 and 22. And yeah. But here, Eric, let me defend myself, and everyone that's listening,
please do
what I did. So how financially responsible I was is when I got tired of one, I would just trade it in, because there's no negative equity that goes with the new one. I was fine with that, so I would just trade it in. And then I did go through a point in my life, as you guys know, I, did go to school in Colorado Springs, where I learned about culture and food and brotherhood and all the things. I had to have tinted windows and rims and speakers and all those things at my age. So not only was I not having negative equity from the first car to the 19th car, but I also had to have wheels and rims and all those things too, which I finally told my dad the other day my dad knew, his wife didn't know how I was doing all of those things when I was that age. So making $9.75 an hour at the gas station. Don't do that, y'all. Just don't do what I did. And
Drugs are bad, okay.
Hey, marijuana is bad, okay. But I mean, those are one of the things. So with the not saving when I was an adult and the mortgage when it crashed, and younger vehicles and wanting to, wanting to impress or wanting to have and wanting to show and all those things, you look back now, I'm like, man, I was an idiot. Like that many cars. Let's just say it was $1,000 a car that I lost. I mean, it was probably less than that, right, Eric? It was probably $1,000 a car that I lost in those 18, 21 cars, whatever. That's a lot of money for that age. And it was for what? It was to prove something that didn't need to be proven. And I learned extremely hard lessons then of paying, at one point, I mean, paying a $600 car payment on a $20,000 car and paying insurance. My parents got canceled twice before I turned 21 for insurance. I'm an insurance agent now. I got them canceled twice. So paying all of that money to try to be somebody you're not and not live those valuable lessons of living between your means or stop living beyond your means. I'm so glad that I'm glad I went through those, but I'm also, I'm glad I went through them myself. My parents didn't. That's the one thing my dad and I talked about the other day. My parents have not given me a dime since I was 14 years old. I had my first job. They haven't given me a dime. So now whether it was I was too stubborn to ask for the help, he didn't want to give me the help, he told me no, whatever it was, I'm glad I learned those lessons by myself. Lost a lot of money, lost a lot of time, lost a lot of whatever, but I'm glad I went through those because it's makes me who I am now. I didn't learn it, 5 years out from that because I clearly was making it rain on all that stuff. But between those and then the mortgage crash, it's like, man, like I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my family. I don't need to be doing it for anybody else. So I'll get my thought and then I'll let you guys go. I would say make sure you're having that conversation, obviously, with your kids. Have it with your spouse first so that you're on the same page with, hey, this is what we're going to do. What do we want to teach them? What do we want to, like Eric said, put some money away for them? Do we want to tell them? Do we not want to tell them? As elementary as some of those conversations may be for us as adults or spouses or whatever, our kids really look up to us and they see that. And I'm a big coupon guy, as you guys know, asking that. When we go to the grocery store, we'll be getting some. Hudson's like, hey, Dad, this water's like 50 cents less than what this one is. You want to get this one? I'm like, yes, we do. We save that 50 cents. So he's gotten that into his mind that he can get the same thing, whether it's an off-brand or sales or whatever. He's looking at that saying, hey, we can actually save some money here, Dad. I've got him there. And I love doing that stuff with him. I love that part of the fact that he listened to or watched me do it when, it could have been I could be another place right now. So who's next? Final thought.
But you were swagged
but I was,
out and fresh.
for sure I was. Shoot. I told people, I was like, I'm going to get those. They're called Aurelia Assassins. They look like Batmobiles. In the Nelly video, they're like, Josh, you can't even find those. They in the Nelly video. I was like, I'm going to get them. And then I did. I pulled up to school with them suckers. They're like, look at the Nelly rims. Yes, I did. They cost me like $79 a month at 40-some% interest, but I guess. Somebody go ahead. Final thoughts.
I wish we had another hour, boy. I want to unpack this.
I know. We can unpack it next week if y'all want to. I need to be unpacked.
I'll go real quick. I heard this great quote probably 3 weeks ago, and it's just been weighing on my mind. But the quote goes like this. It says, 365 days from now, you will be the same person outside of the books you read and the people you meet. And so on two fronts, I think it speaks, one, to our group and about community. It's about who you surround yourselves with. I didn't know, I didn't know, and I still don't know a whole lot about generational wealth. But now I know that as a dad, as a leader, the captain of my home, it's up to me to figure this out. Although I may not be able to leave the general wealth type money that I would like to leave for my family, they're going to have at least $5 or $10 where they can do something with, right? And so, but my hope is to instill a thirst within them, so that they'll figure this out for their family and for their kids and make sure. And so I would just encourage the community at large, like read a book, and get out and shake some hands. And I also heard Donald Miller talk, which is one of my heroes and one of my mentors, but he talks about don't read a book just once, read a book multiple times so that you can get different perspectives from it and different viewpoints. And I've been trying to flesh that out here since the turn of the new year. But that's my thought and my takeaway for today.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm just gonna say, join us next week. We're gonna talk about whooping your kids.
Hey, and I'll say go on Convene Communities and join the Professional Dad community. It's in there. We're starting to build it out, be a big part of it. It's not just about us. It's not just about us on this call. It's about forming a family, a community of men. And so convenecommunities.com, go on, convene.convenecommunities.com, join it, be a part of it, help us grow. We're going to keep growing. And that's what I'll say there. I like this. I like this topic. I think last thing I'll say is just tell them, just talk to them. It's open communication. Go back to what you've said, Devo, many, many times. Communicate, communicate. So that's all I got to say, Josh. You're the man.
All right, let's take us out. You want me to sing it out again?
Yeah, I want you to sing it out. Sing it
Got
out.
what I need.
Sing it out.
But you say he's just a friend. You say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you.
Doo-doo.